basically strengthen its hold in Lagos, it starts working with a, with a with a logistic agency to be able to deliver within Lagos, right? Now, as the relationship progresses further, right, you start seeing a decline in how the other agency responds to you, right? Now, as a project manager, this is something that you should have basically foresaw, right, or basically prepared an alternative, right? In my team, we call it Plan B, C, D, E, F, right? So, if I'm the one basically handling that aspect, right, in terms of the agency augmenting for NIPOST in Lagos, right, I'm not going to be basically talking to just one agency, right? I'm going to be in constant relationship or partnership with virtually all the agencies available, because if I need a delivery at so time and agency one is not available, I should be able to communicate to agency two, three, four, five, and get that need immediately sorted, so it doesn't become a risk in the future. Okay, so for me, it's not just identifying them, but getting ready for potential risk before they rise. All right. Next is procurement management, right? Procurement here could be in terms of, could be in terms of partnerships, right? It could also be in terms of, excuse me, it could also be in terms of, getting resources over to the necessary um, location, right? So as a project manager, right, it's important that you study and understand the basis of procurement management. Okay, because it's like I mentioned, it's not limited to just resources. Partnerships is also an important aspect of procurement, right? So you should be able to dabble into it and get your feet wet in get your feet dirty in procurement management. Next is stakeholder management. All right. So I think I mentioned yesterday that um, I think I defined stakeholder management yesterday as stakeholders rather as people who are impacted by a project or who impact a project. So please understand that definition. People who are impacted by a project are basically your customers or partners in terms of those who provide. Let's say you are building a website, an e-commerce website or what have you, right? And for an e-commerce website, you should be able to provide a means for your customers to be able to pay, which leads you to payment gateways where people can impute their card or transfer money to or what have you, right? To be able to for you to confirm your payments, right? So we have just 2 more minutes. So and I will end it with the slide after this. Okay, please just endure with me. All right. Someone is not muted. Right. So, in that aspect, right? So, in that aspect, payment gateway, you have partners. Okay. So, as a project manager, you should be able to identify each and every stakeholder involved in your project, right? And you should be able to constantly be able to keep them informed. There are people that you need to please. There are people that you need to keep informed. There are people that you need to get their approvals for. You need to get their approvals on certain things and all of that, right? So you should be able to separate each member of the stakeholders into different quadrants that of its various need that may occur for you. All right, and then there is integration management, right? This basically covers every single aspect of integrating every single knowledge from the body of knowledges in product management, right? Managing resources, balancing stakeholder demands, considering alternative approaches, right? Selecting work processes that would meet your actual objectives, right? And then managing dependencies of different knowledge areas, right? So you basically need to be able to put practices in place that would help your team integrate every aspect of the whole body of knowledges. All right. So that's this particular what's it called? Body of knowledge basically works as a roadmap, right? To be able to help you successfully achieve all the set objectives of your projects. Okay. So and that leads us to questions. Oh, any questions? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so we don't have any questions, right?
I have one, sorry.
Sorry?
Hello?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, I have one.
All right,
So,
please go ahead.
after outlining all these management and project management, most often than not, a creep in, for instance, scope or a disparity in any of these management usually affects the entire process. So, for instance, now if you have a scope creep, more often than not, it's going to affect your time, it's going to affect your
Yes.
budget, is going to affect. So how do you manage these things? So for instance, now something affects your time. How do you manage to incorporate it in the scope, or how do you manage to work around the budget when you don't have maybe a contingency or when you don't have any allowance to cater to that buffer?
So the first thing I tell people in this when they ask this question is it's okay to say no.
Hmm.
It's very okay to say no, right? I will give you a bit of context. All right. Um, I was building a product, right? And then the CEO calls me up and says, and here's the thing, right? Because the way I work, once I start working with you, we are building a product. I start developing a roadmap straight up. Okay, I start developing a roadmap. Like once we are done with these aspects, we will move over to this aspect. We'll move over to this aspect, and then the CEO calls me and says, Abiola, there's this interesting idea that I saw other companies working on, blah 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 blah, and I would like us to do it. Now, mind you, I was halfway through the project already. Okay, that meant I was already building. Is a software, right? So I was already building, working with engineers, right? And he says, I want us to make this a priority now, right? So here's what I did, right? I told him, let me make my research and come back to you with a decision tomorrow. He said, okay, good and fine. I went that day, did my research, and my research had showed me that number one, that product was not very viable in the market, right? That's number one. Um, Number two, that product could not exist without the first one that we are building, right? So when I did all my findings, right, I came back to him and I told him, here are my findings. This is what the data suggests, right? Now, he's my CEO, he pays my salary. So obviously I can't tell him outright no. Right? So what I basically did was told him, we'll basically add this to our roadmap of what we are going to be building in the future, right? But as of now, the engineers, the team is already committed to getting this done. So there's no feasible option or feasible possibility of starting this project now. All right. So, like I said, it's okay to say no. It's just, and basically that also boils down to stakeholder management, because the CEO is a stakeholder and a decision making stakeholder at that, right? So I had to manage his expectations, manage, and also in managing to manage his expectations, I had to basically take a look at what the data is saying and all of that. Now, if this data is saying the product is good to do and all of that, right? Regardless, you can't just switch your team up and start working on something different immediately or what have you, right? So the best option is always to, either add it to the roadmap or explain why you cannot add that objective to your scope at the moment. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes. Any other questions? All right. So I have a little assignment for everybody. I'm going to copy and paste it into the chat right now. It's already on the screen. Right. So now this, I want this to be like by per department. Okay. I want this to be per department, right? Take a look at the project life cycle, right? That we did before. Okay. And recreate it to represent what your department does at the moment. Okay. So, in the absence of any questions on what have you, all right, please let's call it a day and meet tomorrow. All right. I think I've taken extra 7 minutes. So, thank you very much, everybody. Please be reminded to come early tomorrow, right? And also, please keep in mind the focus is to expedite efficiency and productivity, right? So no comments are meant to be rude, no comments or what have you. Is to bring minds together and to forge a path for the future for NIPOST. We're all on the same team here, right? So thank you very much. Have a lovely one.
Thank you very much. So we are ending the meeting for everyone. Bye.